Hi, welcome to the Chop House podcast. Come on in. There's no need to take your shoes off here. I hope you're having a great day. On this episode of the Chop House podcast, I wondered, how is it racing and competing in National A races in Britain while studying one of the hardest degrees available? To answer that question, I asked Irfan Zaman to come onto the podcast and talk about how he balances his uni life with elite cycling and the hours and hours of training that he puts into his performance. So I hope you enjoy this podcast. Welcome, Irfan. You finished your third year.
Kind of finished. So the way it works
Right.
is I've got five,
Right.
but the fourth year you spend working for a whole year
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
called like year in industry program. So you do your 3 years. I've got a degree. Then I spend a year working to gain experience. Then I do my masters, as opposed to doing just 4 years straight. Because
Yeah.
the integrated internship, it just helps. It's like a smaller rung on the ladder. Instead of going straight from masters into full-time job, you build up those skills. You build up
Yeah.
that kind of palmares, if you like, of like
Yeah.
work experience, and then you can hopefully, you get a better job, or it's
Build
easier
up
to get a job.
that CV as you're going.
Yeah, I think.
Because having it after third year, I know there's a lot of universities that do like that placement year
Mm.
after 2 years as part of a
Yeah,
sandwich course.
yeah.
So I guess that's it. Just by being a slightly different degree, you do the 3 years kind of heavy, get the majority of it under your belt, and then go into the world of work.
Well, a lot of people do it in the second year, to be honest. You can do it in your
Okay.
second year as well.
Yeah.
But it just makes sense. So often, if you don't, it makes sense to do it as late as possible, right?
Yeah.
So there's no point doing it in your final year, like in your fifth year, because you may as well just get a job. So
Yeah.
typically, people who are only doing like a bachelor's, they'll do it in their third year. People who are
Yeah.
doing a master's do it in their fourth year. And I did do a summer internship last year, just on my own accord, again, just to kind of try and build up my work experience. And I did find that the difference between third year and second year is like massive for me anyway. I found that, like I say, like starting my internship this year, I'm so much more disciplined, so much more knowledgeable, so much more mature than this time last year. So
Yeah.
I think that will therefore help me gain more out of the internship, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Just building up that
Mm.
communications and understanding kind of how people work and
Yeah,
yeah, building
exactly.
that CV as we said before. But I haven't mentioned what degree you're doing. So you're doing chemical engineering, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and I don't know if it's just my perception of it, but I think it's seen as one of the toughest courses universities can provide in England. I don't.
I
That might
think,
just be
I
my
mean,
perception of it, but I mean, it is complicated, and it is, it's anything to do with chemistry and engineering combined. I see that as difficult. I don't know, but what kind of called you to that? What called you to want to study chemical engineering?
well, so I've always been a mathsy kind of sciencey person. Same as my sister. I think it just runs in. She's doing chem eng as well, so it just kind of just runs in the family. I guess it's just. Uh, I guess your example from your parents as well. If your parents are good at maths and sciences, that's kind of what you tend to kind of be shown. So that's kind of what you focus on. And then, so for me, I didn't know what I wanted to do, to be totally blunt with you. So I listed out my options, and I thought, right, I'm not like crazy hell bent on doing a pure subject. Like there's kids who are like they're super into maths and all they want to do is maths, so they go and do a maths degree. That's like great, but I'm like, yeah, I just don't want to spend my like 3 years like just doing maths. And the other thing as well is if you just do like maths or pure physics, um, then it gets like really deep and really technical to the point where it can. For me, I find that quite like a lot of people love it. That's great, but I find it quite like sickening when you're just going so deep into something so specific. So it's like, right, I don't want that level of depth. And then the other option is obviously medicine. But for me, medicine, it was just too long. So I just thought, because the other thing as well with medicine is you're kind of locking yourself in. So I wanted something that's not too deep. I wanted something that's transferable, right? So I want to keep my options open. So, and I like maths and sciences. So the only two options left really are engineering or economics. And I mean, I think economics is a very good degree, and I was really I couldn't really decide between the two. But my kind of more sciencey side kind of won the better of me and ended up choosing engineering. Yeah, and I just chose. I think I just chose Chem Eng because A is a very respected engineering, and B, I think engineers like to argue. We always like to argue with each other, but I'm gonna put myself out there and say I think it's the one with some of the most transferable skills. Because typically a chemical engineer is someone who you're running a chemical plant. You don't just need to know the chemistry. You need to know about how the motors work, the pumps work, the compressors work, your electrical system works. You need to know about logistics. The chemical engineer is typically overviews the whole plant. So it's not just chemistry. There's chemistry, physics, biology, even like geography. Like you need to know like where you're building the plant, what kind of rock you're building it on, what kind of land you're building it on, because you can't just plonk a huge plant on somewhere that's like land that's going to landslide or crumble. So
Yeah,
I
sure.
just chose it because I thought it was the most transferable, and it's just process of elimination really.
Yeah. So it's kind of your, yeah, like you said, keeping the options open and applying
Mm.
that maths to kind of real world rather than just
Yeah,
understanding
yeah,
maths. You're becoming more kind of, you're adding more strings to that bow and
yeah.
bringing all that application in with the geographical understanding and everything that goes along with that chemical engineering. And
Mm.
you're you're studying that at Nottingham
Yeah,
University, yeah.
yeah.
So why Nottingham? It's
Was it?
is it Nottingham Trent or Nottingham
No,
Uni?
Nottingham Uni.
Nottingham
Uni of
Uni.
Nottingham.
Isn't that known as the Party Central?
Yeah, I mean, it's got a really nice. I mean, it is, but then at the same time, with like uni, like with my sports and stuff, I'm not really
Yeah,
going out partying every night.
yeah,
With it's such a big uni. I mean, there's like 30,000 people. It is like if you have a chance to go there, like you visit the campus, it is stunning. It's like lovely walking through it, especially like some of my favorite moments, like when I'm at uni, like the small moments that you really enjoy in life, like just walking back from the gym back to my accommodation. I would just always really like that. I would always do a late night like watt bike or whatever, and then I would walk home at like 9, 10, like obviously through the campus, and it's just such a stunning campus. There's so much to do there, like the sports hall, the swimming pool, sauna, climbing walls. It's a proper like sports village.
yeah,
The uni's big as well. Like I feel don't think I would like feel at home in a small campus. I like a bit of a big campus. It's the perfect size city as well for me. It's because I'm at the moment I'm living in London, which is like so big and busy.
yeah.
I get lost pretty much every day on the way to work. So I always
So
take
many
a wrong.
different routes and traffic lights, aren't there, to get
Yeah, because the
off
thing is, it's always like
from town?
roadworks and stuff. So I'm always having to like
Yeah,
divert around. Or if I'm getting a train, there's always like cancellation here, a
yeah,
delay there. So I'm always having to like work around, end up getting lost. But Nottingham's really small, but there's like, well, it's not too small, so there's so much to do. There's like cinemas, restaurants, whatever you need.
yeah.
So
But
yeah, and the main reason is because I didn't get into Cambridge. To be blunt, so I was like, I didn't want to live in London for reasons I previously stated. It's a bit too big, bit too busy, bit too expensive. I
yeah,
tried for Cambridge, didn't get in. Yeah, so then I just thought, what would my best second choice be? And it was Nottingham because I think that any if you're fortunate enough to be like aiming for those Ross Group unis, like any kind of Ross Group uni that is like good at that course. So like say like like the Nottingham Engineering Department is known to be like a good engineering department. So any
yeah,
kind of Ross Group uni that you go to, you're gonna have really good opportunities.
yeah. So you
So
look at that top 10 on the website, and then you kind of see
yeah,
which one kind of
basically.
fits into there and fits kind of my character and all that. So
Exactly. And
um,
then I would think because I personally like because for engineering, Imperial's an obvious choice. That's like
yeah,
right around the corner for me. It's a really obvious choice. But I went there, I just didn't like the university.
mm,
I was like, I just really just did not like it here. Like I just with my cycling and just who I am as a person, I just did not see myself um, fitting in well, living above some like fish and chip shop for like
Yeah. In
for
the
like
middle of
30 grand a
London,
year in
kind of
London.
on a spread
So,
out campus. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I literally just did not want that, and I was just like, this just seems like stressful. So it just seems
Yeah.
like it wouldn't fit my life. And I think you're gonna perform like the difference between unis, say in like a numbers perspective, because us cyclists love numbers.
Of
Um,
course. Of course.
say from like a numbers perspective, difference between like fifth best and like sixth best or seventh best on the league tables is probably like 4%, just generic kind of better, right? It's probably there's not
Mm.
much in it, is my point.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
3-4%. But the difference between you being somewhere where you feel comfortable, where you enjoy your routine, you love the uni, you've got a better work-life balance, it's easy to do your hobbies, that you're talking about like you're sleeping right, you eating, etc. You're talking about like differences of 10, 20, 30% there. So I'm
Yeah.
like the
The
place that
uni's got to fit you.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
like I would much rather choose a uni that's slightly lower in the league tables.
Yeah.
And also Nottingham gave me unconditional offer, so
Well, there's
I
also that.
didn't, I didn't
So,
have to try for my A levels. So
well,
that's a good plus. No, but seriously though, I do
you're
think
1 year
that
ahead of me, aren't you? So
yeah,
you actually did your A levels.
yeah, I did actually do my A
So,
levels.
um,
Yeah.
but with that, yeah, we've talked throughout that time, and
Mm.
you found a nice route through to keep your um on the straight and narrow with the
Mm.
fitness and not being detracted by your housemates in like your first year to be
Well, it's been really rocky. It's been like
right.
very
You
like
get up and down.
it has not been consistent. Ironically,
Yeah,
the only time I've actually gained consistency is the last like 4 months.
when you've
Like
been in the real world work.
yeah, because
Yeah,
there's more routine. I'm working more
sure.
hours, but I'm more routine. Also, I
Yeah,
do think there's um, a massive part of it is just maturity. It literally is just
mm,
maturity,
agreed.
discipline, and the biggest thing I think is just preparation. It's just what's the phrase? I think it's like poor preparation leads to poor performance.
Yeah, piss poor preparation leads to
Yeah,
no
yeah,
poor preparation leads to piss poor performance. The six
yeah,
P's, I think it is. Yeah,
yeah. No, literally, it is because it is just like getting in that routine, preparing. So like everyone has their own routine. I mean, I like to like prepare everything for the next morning, the night before I get in my routine. I prepare like my overnight oats, I prepare my rides, my bars, my bottles for my ride to work, um, etc. I'll prepare my clothes. I'll already have like stuff at work for like showering or whatever. And yeah, and then it's just preparing and getting in that routine because then I know if I'm prepared, I'm not waking up and running all over the place to get stuff ready. Because
yeah,
I found that I've done that so many times, and I just every time it just doesn't work because you forget something, you miss
makes you more
something.
punctual as well,
Yeah, just
doesn't it?
something goes
Yeah,
wrong. I mean, to be honest, it still happens. Like the other day, yeah, I was running around looking for like some tires to and some tubes to put on my wheels because wheels don't have any tires, tubes on. So I just quickly just ran around, picked some old tires, picked some old tubes, put them on. Next thing I know, I'm getting like 3 flats because obviously the tires are weak. There's something in the
yeah,
tires. Should have put sealant in the tubes for winter. That kind of stuff. Like it's just
yeah,
preparing, and you think about when something goes wrong. Is that maturity? There's a big maturity part where you think, as you get older and getting more mature, it's good to kind of start thinking, oh, this didn't go to plan. How could I have made that gone more my way?
yeah.
And
How
really
can you
take it.
change that? Yeah,
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 taking a lot of it is taking accountability
yeah,
for your own actions. Because if you don't
yeah.
take accountability, you're not going to change for the better.
I think that accountability theme, because my mate Zach Snell, he was on the
Yeah.
first podcast, but you know, that's like the running theme that I'm starting to identify with that maturity. It's just the ability to take accountability and learn from those mistakes, but accept the mistakes and, like you
Yeah,
say, listen to
exactly.
them and change from them and say, how can I change that? Um, yeah,
It motivates you more as well, understanding that people who understand that they can change to positive, and that change will positively impact their life, will do better than people who think, oh, I'll just like, you know, like I'll just like blame it on something else, or I'll just do the same. I'll just write it off as a bad day. I write it off as bad luck. Like sometimes there is an element of that. There is always that in life. Like there's some things you can't control, but like you do always have to like start looking at. Try and start looking at things as how can I, because there's always excuses. I can always say like I'm performing at a national level, but I'm not getting like a top five because the people who are getting a top five don't have a full-time job. You can have
Yeah.
like you can throw excuses out there,
Mm.
but then at the end of the day, it is what it is. You just have to really think about, well, if that's my goal, just focus on yourself. If that's my goal, this way I am now. What can I do better to get to that goal? It's really simple, but it's really hard to do.
Which brings it on to the point of what I was wondering about. Like you've been performing at the national A's. You
Mhm.
did which one did um
Stockton, Lancaster, Isle
yeah,
of
you
Man.
did what you did really well at one, didn't you?
So I mainly got noticed at Stockton.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I ended up puncturing with 8 miles to go,
Yeah.
and the team car was elsewhere, so I couldn't get a spare wheel.
Yeah.
So
British
that ruined my
racing.
race. But I was looking for like a top 30 in that. Well, as in, I would have like certainly
Cracked
got a
on.
top 30, and that was
Yeah.
I'll say that was my first Nat A. So, and I think that kind of like it's not an amazing result. There's probably people listening to this podcast. That's that's like a small result, but for me, top 30 in my first ever Nat A, like
Like you said, with
that was a
a
big
full
achievement.
job and doing the degree you're
Mm.
doing as well, that's putting into perspective. That's
Mm.
a cracking result given the restrictions on training and the fact that you're able to train as much as you do. Because I know you train lots.
Yeah,
To
I
put
mean,
it
I
quick.
did. Yeah, so I had a period over summer because like I said, it's ebbed and troughed. Like this year's just been, I don't know how I've pulled some good results out of the bag because this year's been. I mean, I've been talking to you throughout the whole year, and it's just been like manic with
Yeah,
exams, really. Because that's what it is. I mean, to be honest, it's not really like the hours are there. It's just when all your work hours are crammed into like a 2 week period.
yeah. For that,
Um,
that exam stress on the brain. Just also, even though you're doing the work and you understand you've got the hours, the fact that you need to think about coming back for doing that exam preparation kind
yeah,
of takes away
exactly.
from the hours on the bike. Even though you do have the hours to do it, the quality isn't quite there. Um,
But then
but
again, the more you prepare, like during, because it's the classic, like the more you prepare during the prepare and manage your time during the kind of like term, pardon, the learning season, the less you'll need to cram in exams. And every teacher says this. Every teacher says this. No students ever done it. I mean, I'm 20 and I still haven't done it successfully ever. But I mean, I feel like it's getting there, and especially with the job, because obviously with the job you are in that routine, and it's almost like if I can just keep that routine like moving forward to say my next year at uni, I think it would be fine.
yeah,
Because like I mean, you say it's a tough degree, but I mean the working hours are probably the same as like a full time job, like 40 hours a week. But
okay,
then I'd say that's pretty like yes, pretty standard, like 40, like 35, 45, that kind of range. Um, which is fine, like if you do it, spread it out over time. When the issue is when you go to uni in the first few weeks, you're kind of settling in, you're going out, seeing friends, you're like watching Netflix, you're staying up late, whatever. Um, you're kind of just procrastinating a lot and so forth. And then when it gets to exam season, you're trying to pull these like 80-hour weeks. Uh, and then, yeah. And it's really about having a plan as well, I think is a big thing because um, quite often I would just spend too much time. Because basically the whole year this year I've been spending too much time on uh, one exam that was coming up in like 2 weeks. So I would just be like, oh, I haven't done any work. I need to cram for this exam. So I cram, cram, cram. do the
Yeah.
exam, do well in the exam, but then I'll be like, oh, next exam's in 3 days' time, so I'm gonna have to like. Then it's just you're constantly just cramming from exam to exam.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like yeah, it's
You're not
been
doing
this
little
year's.
bits here and there, here and there. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to repeat this year, to be honest with you. It's been absolutely just manic, I think.
With you were saying it's quite a sporting uni. You got a lot of facilities, and
Yeah,
you've got does this does the university support you as a elite cyclist in any way?
cycling's a weird sport
Yeah.
because obviously I'm racing for an elite team, right?
Yeah.
And all the racing
Which
I
is
do, yeah,
Spirit,
Spirit. So I'm
Spirit to
racing
Posse
for Spirit
BSS.
BSS.
Yeah.
Um, fantastic opportunity I've been given this year, actually. I'd like to talk more about it later as well. I'm racing for Spirit, and that's an elite team. They kind of cover all my cycling needs. And obviously, I'm competing against other elite teams. I'm not competing against other unis. I might do the university events, but there's
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 of them a year.
Yeah.
And usually they're at strange times as well, like the track and the hill climb are in the off season.
Yeah.
So it's like if I
Yeah,
do
the
them,
tracks in the season just picking up, and the hill climbs in the off
yeah,
season, and you got the road race on the biggest weekend of the year, and
yeah,
you just can't
exactly.
compete in them, can you?
And then I'm just kind of like, I don't think I've ever turned up to like a Bucks event and like prep for it, but the same as everyone else is doing it. No, the hill climb last year, I remember meeting you.
Yeah.
I saw you there, and we were both like, I was like, have you done any prep for this? And you were like, nope, I haven't ridden for like 2 weeks. Because it was like early November, and I was like, "Yeah, same." Just come back from off season. Um, yeah, it's but so yeah, the uni events kind of they don't really like concern me, to be blunt. This is all with my team, but the main thing the university does is they provide the strength and conditioning sessions, which are key for me over the winter. So we
Right.
have an amazing strength and conditioning coach. His name's Tim at Nottingham. He's an amazing guy, and yeah, he just talks us through the sessions that he wants us to do, like the squats, the deadlifts, the various like kind of jumping exercises. We do a fair bit, a lot of single leg stuff as well for cycling, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say that's like the main standout advantage. Then apart from that, just a general kind of social aspect of being able to meet and ride with similar minded people as well, which is really good
Of
because you
similar
got.
ability as well, I assume.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
got Nottingham has a lot of strong riders. Um, Loughborough has a lot of strong riders. So there's
It's
just a
just
lot
down
of.
the road from there, isn't it? So
Yeah,
you can
well, 20
do you
miles.
off. Aye,
Uh,
it's close enough. You can link up quite easily,
Yeah, so
can't
you
you?
meet in the middle, and you can
Yeah.
get a really really strong group ride out.
Nice. That's good. And with Spirit, you were on. Um, I haven't
TBW.
listened to it yet, but you were on Gapped
Oh,
Cycling Podcast. Were you
yeah,
talking about that there? Um,
yeah. I talked about how I got onto Spirit. So, like I mentioned earlier, Stockton was kind of my.
yeah,
I did Rutland, but that was like mid-exam season.
yeah, and
So
it's a topsy turvy,
yeah,
chance
I did
race as
Rutland.
it is
I was
anyway.
just like, well, yeah, Rutland. I think is probably one of the most. It probably is the most savage Nat A. It's not a Nat A even. It's a UCI race. So it's the most savage.
Is it a
Like
UCI race anymore?
it was this year. It was
Is
1.2.
it? Okay, still
I
is.
think so.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's the most savage race, and you get thrown in there. I was like so unfit. It
Did
was
you
my
do it as a
first road
junior?
race, huh?
Did you do it as a junior as well?
No, that was my
No, you
first
never.
road race
Wow.
since juniors. So that was my first road race since juniors for like 4 years because of COVID. I know that was just like I did okay, but I mean it was just like what it is. I
Thrown in
was
at the
like,
deep end.
yeah, it was literally just a matter of um, you go there, get spat,
Yeah.
ride as hard as you can till you get pulled out, basically. And then Stockton, that's where I kind of got noticed because it was like I was off the front of the second group, if that makes sense. So I was in between the first group and the second group, and obviously when you're off the front, you're much more standout
Yeah, of
because
course.
it's like you're a solo rider trying to bridge across the gap.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I got noticed. And then Spirit picked me up from that. Really, really thankful to Russ, really, and Josh and Jason. They're the guys who run
Yeah.
Spirit.
And you said they helped you out and covered your needs quite a lot compared to, what the university might be able to, because you're not competing in the bucks. So what sort of
Yeah,
things are
you know,
Spirit kind of helping you out with?
yeah, just like traveling and entry fees, logistics, even just like there's a really big team aspect in Spirit. Is we're very closely knit, all the riders and staff. Um, so we all help each other out when we can,
No, that's good.
and it's
Good
really,
team
really good.
atmosphere.
We're by no means like it's not all about money. We're far from being the team with the most money. We're not, but we just do our best to help each other out, and it's a really good atmosphere to have. And I do think that it's a very fair team, especially with like you know I'm really grateful that they saw that I had something, and they were like, right, we want this person. He's clearly a talent, and they gave me that opportunity. I do think that there's that throughout your life there'll be like a handful of people, like 3 to 5 people, who will really give you that like a really step
Opportunities.
up in it, whether it's like in your career or sports. And I do think that me jumping onto Spirit, which is like an elite team, getting onto that ladder of elite teams,
Yeah,
that was a really like that was probably quite a big step up in a even though it's not like a professional team or whatever, but it was still a really important step up in my cycling career.
agreed. Agreed. And that's completely visible. And um, throughout the last year and a half, you've been kind of going off and on whether you wanted to do
Mm.
that elite
Yeah,
cycling.
yeah, I have.
So are you dead set on that being a part of your future now?
Oh yeah, so the last like year and a half, especially during COVID, which kind of demotivates you, and because it was like there is a bit of a gap in cycling where you can compete at a local level, even like a national B level as an individual rider. But if you
Hmm.
really want to get onto that national scene, there's UCI races where you're riding as a team, and you're turning up as a team, and you have that support, and you really want to be competitive and do well at that level. You need to be on one of the elite teams.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I would say so. Might disagree. I mean, there are some really strong individual riders out there. I mean, like Alexander Richardson up until
Yeah.
recently, but yeah, you can. So I kind of wasn't. I applied, but I kind of wasn't really making that jump, and um, it was an element of like because it's like you need work experience to get a job, but you need like a job to get work experience. It's a catch
Yeah.
22 kind of element. Like I would apply to a team, and they'll say like, yeah, you've done really well in all these local races, but you haven't done any like big races. And I'll say, well, I can't do any big races, especially during COVID, because the big races were oversubscribed because there were so few of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was struggling to get into any of the big races. And then like,
Because you were still a Cat 3, Cat 2 borderline,
yeah,
I
so
think.
even when I was a
Yeah.
Cat 2, I still was
Yeah.
struggling to get into any of the big races.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and then I was just kind of like, I just did the same thing again and again. It's
Yeah.
impact.
Cycle
I'm not
box.
really
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm not really getting better. It's impacting my, um, because obviously it impacts your social life, it's
Yeah.
time, it's money, and I kind of just thought this like time and money is just better spent
The
elsewhere.
money's a big thing on the British cycling scene,
Oh
isn't it?
yeah,
Because
oh yeah,
the entry's so extensive. The entry cost is so extensive, but the reward back isn't.
it's
You know,
obscene. It
you
really
have to
is
be
obscene.
podium, if not top three, and complete the whole series to even kind of get some
Yeah,
most of what you've paid in time and energy and investment. Um, so yeah, I could see that as being, a big demotivating factor, and it is certainly
yeah,
a lot for people at university. Like they don't want to buy a full member's
yeah,
license because they're only
exactly.
going to race 2 or 3 times in the year. It just doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to, because the race entry's 30 quid, the membership, what, I don't know, however much that is.
When you think about student budgets, and
Exactly. Yeah,
they don't,
it
and then you
is
try and do
crazy.
a sport
A
like
thirty
cycling.
pound, £30 entry for a Nat B. I'm
Yeah,
like, and if they don't win it, they're not getting any cash back.
yeah, and it's kind of like if you crash or puncture or you have a bad race,
Yeah,
and you kind of think, well, you have a series of those, and you very quickly start to think like, you know,
yeah.
like how much you're putting pretty much all your money into it as a student. You're like sacrificing a massive chunk of your social life, and then you kind of think, well,
Mm,
why am I doing this? But then,
yeah. And
thankfully,
is
I'm
that
really.
social life important to what you're doing, or is it kind of, does it go hand in hand for you, or can you kind of sacrifice it a little bit more than maybe some other students?
I think, to put it bluntly, like, everyone who knows me knows that I sacrifice it quite a lot. As in, I don't really ever like go out, stay late, that kind of thing. Uh,
Touche.
but I mean, that's like, people do that, and they will have like a degree alongside it. It is definitely possible, and I have done that. But then you just constantly you never get any rest.
Yeah.
So, and then at the
And
same time as well, I like being with this opportunity that I've been given on Spirit. I do kind of. You mentioned like where do I see myself now? You said over the last year and a half, I've kind of been on and off. But no, the last few months I've kind of said, right, I've got this opportunity. I really want to like knuckle
yeah,
down, and I really, really do want to make the most of it for the next few years at
yeah.
least.
And you being on the Gap podcast, you're kind of leading that way for the community.
Yeah,
That's also really exciting for you to be kind of you and oh, what's your sister's name again?
Sana.
Zana. Yeah, for you to be kind of leading that way is, yeah, you got people looking up to you, man. So yeah, keep
Yeah,
going. And if you want to listen to that Gap podcast, I'll put it in the description. I'll listen to myself after this as well. What's the best thing about the elite racing that you've experienced?
I think it's definitely it's a different style of racing. So, obviously, before I've been racing as an individual, so you kind of turn up to races, race an individual. You turn up in your own car, you sign on yourself, you get dressed by yourself, and then yeah, but as a team, everything's done as a team.
Yeah.
So you're turning up as a team. You have your team gazebo, team talks. You have a big, even just having like people putting your numbers on your bike, people asking what you want in your energy drinks and all that stuff. And then in the race, there's a tactical element of you working as a team
Yeah.
versus as an individual
Which I
rider.
saw at the Star of the Southwest British
Yeah,
National
yeah,
Series. You and Wales were the two teams going head to head, really, and
yeah.
I think you found
You
yourself
still
up the
managed to get
road.
away.
Yeah, because you were up the road for so long of the race, like you
Yeah.
couldn't peg me back at the end, man.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was. It's really working together as a team, and to me, that's much more rewarding
yeah.
because say before, like I said, you think, oh, I'm not winning. Why am I doing all this stuff?
Or you're not
But when
feeling
it's a
great on
part,
the day, and
yeah, but
yeah,
when you're part of a team, you're turning up as a team member. For me, I think I'm more of a team player, so I'm turning up for the team. I'm not just doing it for
hmm,
myself. Like I want to turn up. I want to turn up fit as good as I can, with the best legs that I have on the race day, and
yeah,
yeah, really perform for the team. Because then there's
yeah.
also like there's more accountability to it as well, right? Because if you're racing as an individual, if you have a bad race, like, so what?
You're
Like,
getting
you know what I mean?
headspace, and it's
Because
just yeah.
yeah, it's kind of like I had a bad race, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, what does it really mean? Not much. But when you're in a team,
If
um,
you feel like you've got the bad legs, you can just
yeah.
push and just be
So in
like,
that
oh
Stars of the Southwest race, I was
yeah,
swinging for the first half of the race.
'cause you did a mad week the week before in
Yeah.
training, didn't you?
Yes, I was on holiday, a training camp kind of, and I did like a 25-hour week. So I was, and like
He
literally
says
just like the
casually.
race was on the Sunday of that week. So like the
You're
race was like,
crazy.
so the first half of the race obviously had really like fatigued legs. So like I was thinking of pulling out of that race to be like, it sounds really embarrassing saying it because it was a flat race. So I shouldn't have been struggling because like sitting in the bunch shouldn't have been that hard. But
Hmm.
I was genuinely considering about 45 minutes in, an hour in, I was genuinely considering pulling out of the race. Like I was at the back of the group thinking, I'm just not going to make it up the next climb. I'm like, I was really just like, you know what I mean?
But it's a flat race. You'll make it up the next climb.
Yeah, well, I was like surprised at how much I was struggling, but then all of a sudden, about hour and a half, 2 hours in, two and a
Yeah.
half hours in, yeah, I just really found my legs, and I was flying. I was flying in the last. It's a shame I wasn't flying in the first half of the race because,
That's endurance though in British racing. We all do the hour, 2 hours so regularly in the British
mm,
scene that everyone is pinging. I swear, the British riders are some of the best hour to 2 hour racers.
mm,
They could drop anyone in the first or second hour,
mm.
but as soon as you hit that third, fourth hour,
Yeah,
they fall off a
it's
cliff,
hard.
man.
Yeah,
And with your
yeah, I
training
think.
and the endurance training you're doing, you can just turn up and switch on into that third and fourth when others are lacking that base endurance and just start slipping
Mm.
backwards. So
Attritional. I prefer an attritional race.
yes,
But yeah, anyway, it's just but the fact that I was in the team and the fact that I was supposed to be closing down moves, and it's more like right, I'm not going to get a result for myself because if I was running as an individual, I might have just said like, I'm not going to get a result for myself. I'm just going to like this race is just in the bin. I'm
yeah.
just going to either pull
Sit
out
in
or
and
just
see what happens. Yeah,
sit in for the whole race. But
yeah,
because it was like working for a team, it's like I kind of thought to myself, right, so I don't have the best legs today, but what can I do to still have an because we had our rider leader Farley, right? He was second in the series, I think.
yeah.
And we said, what can we do? What can I do to put Farley in the best position to jump ahead in the leaderboard, really?
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, the race as a whole was like really well. Like it was a good race for me. I did very well. Um, and I got like my team manager said to me after that was like he comes up to me and says like I think you raced fantastically today, and I tell him like that was one of the most like worst race. That was the worst I've like ever felt for a long time.
But when your
But
manager says that, that must be so fulfilling.
yes, exactly. Because then I was like in my head I was thinking I was like on some shocker today. I was absolutely horrendous. I was like, this is diabolically bad. I could have done this race as like a junior, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, but then after at the end, he said, but then I'm so glad that I continued and not even just sat in, just like kept chase. Even though
Aggressive.
had bad legs, I kept being aggressive because that's what I had to do. I just kept doing it to the best of my ability. And yeah, and then apparently I did really well. So there we go.
That's what you always like to hear, man.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're on off season now, then I assume.
No,
No,
well,
Beaumont.
kind of.
Beaumont.
I mean, it's a bit. I mean,
Don't say that here. I'll try and put it. Won't be out. Beaumont's next weekend, isn't it?
yeah. So I've got Roy Hill tomorrow. Is on the 2nd
Right.
of October. So
Yeah.
if you're listening, maybe I've already raced it. I
Yeah.
don't know. But then Beaumont's on the 9th. But to be honest, training wise, I've really kind of tapered off
Hmm.
because I'm still training, but I'm really kind of tapered off, and I'm like focusing more on my social life and like family and stuff
That time of year,
because
isn't it? Really? Yeah.
well yeah because I do it's a really weird situation when it gets to this time of year because it's like I could train 20 hours a week, but what's the point?
No.
Because you're not going to get any better in a week.
No.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
been a real shame as well because I've been supposed to have raced last week and the week before, but they've both been cancelled. So I'm in a
Yeah.
perpetual state of like
Ah, just bad
tapering,
news. Yeah.
if that makes
Not
sense. Like,
perpetual, mate. It'll only last 2 weeks, and then you'll start falling off.
yeah, exactly. That's the issue. Is because it's like how long until the fitness starts to go, right? Because I've had, well, don't say 2 weeks because it's my third week.
Oh
So
no, I
like,
shouldn't have said
so
that.
like two
Sorry.
weeks ago, so 2 weeks ago I tapered for for like a race. It was cancelled, and I was kind of like,
Yeah.
well, now I've just got all this like freshness and form, and what do I do? Go for like a cafe ride,
I
basically.
should have come to
Like,
Hillingdon, mate. That's where all the Beaumont lads
yeah,
turned up.
true.
Um,
True, maybe I should have. Yeah, but then the same thing happened last week as well, and it's the same thing as like so you have one like easy week, race is
yeah,
cancelled. You have another easy week, that
yeah.
race is
The
cancelled.
British cycling scene's so temperamental. Just the way that it's all planned out. But
Yeah, I'm really quite worried to be blunt. Really, it is really like quite concerning.
yeah,
Um,
is
I think
Spirit
there's a
looking
real
at any? Belgian races in the future, French races in the future? Because you did do a French.
Yeah.
They did some French race out there this year, didn't they?
Next year, I'm not. It hasn't been confirmed what our UCI program will be, but there will be some UCI races,
Oh, that's
and
good.
I'm looking to. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm looking. Assuming I'm still on the team next year, I'm looking to. Uh, yeah, hit up some big UCI races, especially like there's some hilly under 23 races,
Mm,
kind of like in France, maybe some
yeah,
in Spain.
yeah,
And I think me being a lighter guy and me being under 23, the hilly under 23 races
yeah.
are probably a good, really good.
Good,
I've got a good
good
shot
bet.
at. So
Yeah, for sure.
world champs. That's a well for Pakistan, mate. So
Oh wow.
there's your
Yeah,
curveball. There's your
yeah.
curveball. So I talked about it on the Gapped podcast actually.
Okay.
I never knew Pakistan had a team in world champs. They had like a couple of riders here and there. Not in the
Elite or
elites or not.
U23?
They had like
U23.
a men.
Men, yeah.
Oh, so there we go. There we go.
No, I don't
So
know.
that's.
I don't
Oh,
know.
did they? Oh no, I don't know. I they had a junior.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had a junior
So
in
you would
like the
try to go with them for the U23?
yeah World Champs Olympics.
Mm.
Well,
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
it's
I'm
doable.
sorry. Yeah, that's. I
It's
mean,
doable. It's doable. I mean,
agreed. I'm not. Yeah, my
I'm
reaction is
not
not
planning
that.
on winning it.
It's. Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
what was it? Not to call any names, but I was chatting to Red Walters.
Yeah,
He did Commonwealth Games
commie games. Yeah,
for Grenada.
like, man, it would be incredible, man.
I
I want to
mean,
see it
it's
happen now.
yeah,
Make it happen, mate. Make it
yeah.
happen.
So, uh, yeah, you know, that I think, like, say if I did under 23 Worlds in my head, you know, I'm never going to win it. Like, you know, you're up against World Tour riders basically.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
but
In the
I
under
reckon
23 too.
pardon?
In the under 23 too.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, you know, the under 23 Worlds, like, honestly, I can't say like if I get like a top 50 or top 60, if I'd even finish. But I mean, if I've got good legs, you know, I reckon I can. I don't see why I can't be somewhat competitive in that race.
I agreed. You're 4th year next year as well, so you'd be the upper
Yeah,
end of the category. So, um,
yeah.
yeah, how cool would that be? From, yeah, because I think the last time we properly raced together, bar the before the Southwest race, was at that Hillingdon Spring Archer in 2016
Oh yeah, that
when we
was a
were
long time.
lapping the field, and I think that would that'd be mad
Yeah,
if we're both at UCI races next year from there. That'd be
we
insane.
did some nationals together as a junior, I think.
Yeah,
But
cadence.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but.
I
You lap
picture
me
on the
at
time.
the first memory I have from you is you lapping me like 4 times at Hillingdon.
Oh really?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I used to be
You
really, really good as
smacked
a
me.
youth. I
Yeah,
don't know. I think I just because I just picked it up early, and then
yeah,
I kind of just like tapered off when I was 15, 16, 17. Now I've picked it back up again a bit.
yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
I never knew that. I do. Yeah, I never knew that I was lapping you as a
oh yeah,
14-year-old.
many times. But that gave me the inspiration, man. So
Oh,
yeah. Wow, mega mate. That was an epic call. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for coming on to the Chop House. Hope your
that's
time
fine.
here.
Thank you for having me
Hope,
on, mate.
hope your time here has been good. And yeah, best of luck for the off season and into next year.
Cheers. Yeah, I'll see you around.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.